go through this process.
Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, proud to the immigrant mom. Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, proud to the immigrant mom.
I'm able to still go through this process.
Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, proud to the immigrant mom. Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, proud to the immigrant mom.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Immigrant Mom Show. It's been a minute. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad that you're able to join me today. Let's give it a couple more minutes so many more people can join us. And so I'm just going to let us spend this time and share to our group, to our friends, so that people can join us. I'm just going to take this time to share so many more people can join us. Hi. Once you join, let me know where you're watching from. I am so thrilled to be back. It's been a minute. Let's go ahead and share so more people can join us.
You told me leave your life.
Hi, Christine. Thank you for watching.
My hair up or let it down. Remember when you told me always smile, but some days I really sad.
People are clicking in. Once you join, please let me know where you're watching from. I love to know where you're watching from so I can acknowledge your presence while you're getting settled in for this conversation today. Please share.
This one no be mouth, I will never let you down. I say yo, yo, yo. Anywhere you see my mother, tell her I remember. If you help me see my sister, tell her I remember. Any matter, tell them.
Hello, hello.
Yo, yo, yo. Anywhere you see my mother, tell her I remember. If you help me see my
Let me
sister,
see
tell her
who's
I
here.
remember.
Hi, Sister Felicity. Thank you for joining. Hi, and thank you so much to share. We have an interesting conversation for today. The more the merrier.
Say if them touch your lap, oh, you go carry belly. Oh, I remember. I remember. You oh, my life now history. Cause it wasn't easy. Still I had to find a way. If wishes were hers, still come all I'm for night. This one no be mouth, I will never let you down. I say yo, yo, yo. Anywhere you see my mother, tell her I remember. If you help me see my sister, tell her I remember. Any matter, tell them it don't better.
Thank you for joining. Thank you, Sister Felicity. Compliment. How's everyone doing? We just have one more minute and we're gonna get started. Don't forget to share. All right, guys, I think we're already 6 minutes into the hour and we should get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm always so thrilled to have these moments, to have these conversations from the Immigrant Mom. If you're joining us today for the first time, thank you, Lily. I appreciate your presence. Don't forget to share. If you're joining us for the first time, this is the Immigrant Mom, and this is the Immigrant Mom Power Show hosted by the Immigrant Mother. The Immigrant Mom is an organization that is equipping, empowering, educating the immigrant mother who is raising her children in a country or in a culture that she did not grow up in. It's been over a month since we had one of these live shows. I took a break I was gone for about a month, and I was actually ill, but thankfully I'm fine now. 2020 was that year that forced a lot of us to look closely into who we are and why we do what we do and why those things even matter. And at least that was the case for me. I'm hoping that, 2021 will be a great year for you. It will be a great year for us. It will be a great year for myself, for my family. So I'll just take this time to say Happy New Year. This is our first show. Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for joining. Please don't forget to share. If you're just joining, please share so many more people can join us. Share to as many groups as you can. Foluja says hello from Atlanta. Thank you so much for joining. So in other news, I wanted to just let everyone know, the audience, everybody that's interested in the immigrant mom, that we are now a 501c3 organization. We're now going to be tax exempt. Hi, Benjamina. Thank you. Hi, Sylvia. Happy New Year. That's great news. Like, if I had a drum right now, and I'll do the whole drum roll thing, because that means that we can accept grants, we can work hand in hand with the government, like Department of State, in terms of resettlement of immigrants, even get into programs where we can help people do their citizenship training to pass their citizenship exam. So, it's really great news, and I cannot share this news without saying a shout out to the ARC NPS, my sister Lily, who is watching, who helped us get that through and get that done. Thank you so much. If you're a nonprofit and you need to apply to the IRS to be tax exempt, you should contact the ARC NPS. And Lily Binglo is the CPA. She is the owner. She's doing the happy thanks. Hi, Chinelo. Thank you for joining. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So, on another note, we have 6 open positions in our board of directors. Now, the board of directors is not just a glorified title. It is for people who can identify with the immigrant mom vision, that want to lock arms with the organization to do the work. So somebody asked me a question. They were like, Excel, what are the benefits of being in the board of directors? And I said, no, not benefits. The word would not be benefits. The word would be, what is the responsibility? Because it is a heavy task to be a part of this, knowing very well that we have a lot to do in this year and beyond. We have the 2021 Immigrant Mom Conference coming up. I'll save that detail for a later time where we can talk about all the projects that we have. We may not be able to talk about the projects on here, but we will be talking about them in our group, the Immigrant Mom group. So you should join us. If you're not a part of that group, search for it on Facebook and send a request, and we would like to have you there. I know I have said so much in a few minutes. That's because I'm heading to the part where I can talk about why we're gathered here today. If you ask any immigrant mom, right, what is your concern or your pain point? A lot of immigrant moms are concerned about how to give their children the best of both worlds. We're concerned about how to preserve our culture with our children. And so today, before I'm not going to tell you anything about the speaker, because I would like for her to introduce herself to us, right? So I'm going to invite, let me just play this while I bring her on. So I'm going to invite her. Hi, Omobola, are you there?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I was playing your
I just saw it.
Let's just let it play since it's already out there. I put together this lovely slideshow of
Awesome. Thank you.
Everyone to see. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for accepting to come onto our platform to share your story, to tell us a little bit about you, to tell us about the African fairy tales that you are into. But before we even get into all of that, I just like for you to introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? And tell us about your kids. We just want to know about you.
Okay. My name is Omobola Imoisili. I'm originally from Nigeria, so I grew up in Nigeria, and then I left Nigeria to pursue university. So I was in England for a while, and then I moved to America, and that's where I got married. And I have two children, two daughters, an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I really just, I really didn't even see myself going into any of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today until I had my kids, and just seeing the difference in their experience growing up here compared to growing up in Nigeria. And I was like, I have to do something. And my job at the time, while it was great paying, it just wasn't, fulfilling.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, you know what, now is a good time to pursue my, a passion. And then, so I started a company called Tenny and Tire Creations. And I'll talk more about that as we go along. But I do books and toys and apparel, all with a pinch of African influence. And then I do workshops, African fairy tales and folk tales for kids. And the purpose of that really is just to expose kids from everywhere, especially African kids and Black kids. But a lot of my kids, the kids that come to my class, are from all over the country, Ireland, Japan, a lot of people just join in on the stories. But it's a great way to teach kids about Africa, but also expose Africa to other people who have like a limited view of who we are.
Right. So you have been an immigrant. Well, I would not say immigrant mom in two different places, because when you were in the UK, you were not a mom at that time.
Yes.
So your experience being that immigrant mom is from your experience in the US.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the UK, I mean, it was a whole different type of immigrant. And that was my first time being out of Nigeria, in the UK. And just experiencing that it's in itself was its own, experience.
Yeah.
But I really did not feel like, I really felt more like African, I guess, when I moved to America, because I feel like in America, it's always in your face, Black this or Black that. So like you're kind of reminded about it all the time. And then you kind of notice the differences and the disparities and things like that a lot more.
Yeah.
And so that's why, that's kind of what kind of pushed me also, especially when I have my children here and we live in an area where there's not a lot of people that look like us. So
and it's interesting that you say that, because I had a different experience. I was in South Korea prior to coming to the US, but I felt like in South Korea, there were not many people of this skin color. So it was pretty obvious that I was, a visitor or a stranger there, as opposed to being in the US, where I felt like I could easily blend in, So it's interesting to hear how you had it the opposite way around in the UK, where, you didn't really feel African. Like it's so obvious right now, because the society in the US, talks about race and talks about color quite a lot. I was going to ask you about your background, because you did something completely different or not related to storytelling or what you're actually involved in the UK. I think you had tell us about like your educational experience and how that so differs from what you're doing right now.
So I have a degree in computer science. So computer science is where I started off, and I was going into technology at first, and I quickly learned that that wasn't for me. I think, a lot of part of the difference about growing up in Nigeria is that you're kind of pushed into like a field, but you don't really know all the elements that are involved in that field. Like, I didn't know what Word was when I started university. When I started and they're like, submit your first assignment in Word, I was like, what's Word? And all my colleagues knew. So I was already a step behind compared to everybody else who was doing computer science. But I started computer science, and then from there, I went and I did my master's. I did my master's in business administration. I got my MBA in Los Angeles. And then for a while, I was just working as a strategy exec. I was executive director of strategy and business operations at a company. And yeah, that's kind of my background. So it's more strategy and numbers and analytics, very non-creative.
Right.
And maybe that's why I kind of got pushed into this direction, because I think I needed to use the creative side of my brain, and there wasn't very much opportunity for that in the job that I was doing, and it was getting very limited. So I think I just had a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
If I speak honestly, I think I just had a mental breakdown and I couldn't do it anymore. And so
and a lot of us can relate with that. A lot of us can relate with, going a particular path because our parents, and let's be quite honest, right? Coming from the African culture, I know not every immigrant mom is African, but we have quite a number of us that are watching. Our parents associated success with particular names, like an engineer, a computer scientist, a lawyer, a doctor, to say that that was the definition of success. And so a lot of people, not everyone, a lot of people were driven into those directions and ended up realizing in their career that they had no fulfillment whatsoever, even though they looked successful to their African parents or to their African community. So you're not the only person. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to, those mindset myths that a lot of us immigrants or Africans experience. So you talked about your daughter and her not seeing that representation. You mentioned something about her knowing that her hair was kinky. I read your interview with the LA Voyage, and you talked about her noticing that her skin was different, especially you guys lived in an area that did not have a lot of Black kids. Can you tell me, just quite honestly, as a mom, what were some of the thoughts going on in your head, trying to think about how to let your daughter know that she's different, but she's equally as beautiful or even more?
It was really tough because I feel like, growing up in Nigeria, even though you play with white dolls and you play and you do all of those kind of things, is different because everybody around you, we're all people of color, so it's different. Our hair is all kinky,
Yeah.
So it was definitely difficult. And I mean, it still is, to be honest with you, because my daughter still says, oh, I want this thing. And sometimes she's like, oh, I want to be fairer, or, things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely very challenging because in her school, she's probably the only, my two of them, they're in different classes. They're probably the only Black kids, or maybe one or two others in their class. So I try to make an effort to like buy things that represent them. So I'm very, like if you find stuff in my house that, doesn't represent them, it's either I didn't buy it or I really wanted whatever it was and I couldn't find something that, that represented them,
Right.
So I try to be more specific about it. So anytime I see something, with, a Black child on it, I praise it more so that they can see me acknowledging that that's beautiful.
Right.
I try to make sure their dolls, their books, their toys, everything has like a little, like even coloring books. Like I try not to do too many coloring books, even though they like Frozen and Disney. I'll still do that because I don't want to deprive them of that. But I try to like incorporate a lot of other things. And anytime I see anybody who is dark skinned or brown or whatever, like I always like, I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I love her hair, So like I just try to reinforce it with them so that they too can associate, oh, okay, mom thinks that this
Right.
is
Right.
beautiful, even though they're not getting it all the time.
Right.
But it's definitely difficult because, like, even when they're watching TV shows, that's a whole other,
Right.
you don't see a lot of representation on TV shows and, in the books. So
Yeah.
it's hard. And that's really why I started my company. I feel like it has helped because I do feel like my daughters are being more, they're appreciating themselves more, especially my older daughter. My younger daughter, she's still learning.
Yeah.
My older daughter, I think I've beat it into her now. You are beautiful.
And it's amazing because, see this comment from one of our audience watching us, Carly, and she says being intentional. And that really is the catchphrase there, being intentional as immigrant mothers, because the honest truth, right? Like you said, we had a different experience growing up. There was absolutely no problem playing with our peach dolls, because
Exactly.
quite frankly, there weren't even any, dark-skinned dolls in the market, at least not in
Exactly.
Cameroon. So having a peach or a white doll at my upbringing, I didn't think much of it. While
Yeah, exactly.
it might be really, it's something that, as immigrant moms, we need to be a lot more intentional, especially those of us that have younger kids. So why do you think that, or let me rephrase this question. A lot of us who are dark skinned came from cultures that did not make us feel good. So you have parents that are having to teach good self-image that don't have a good self-image. Is this something that you have encountered? And I know it's different from your line of work of storytelling, but I'm just wondering if you can share some wisdom to parents, to moms who are teaching or who should teach a good self-image when they don't necessarily have one.
I think there's so many great examples. I think really it's leading by example, right? So I think we're in a great position right now where we see a lot of people out there with dark skin that are doing amazing things, right? And we can present that. So, like, one day I made my daughter sit down and watch Black Panther.
Oh, you're going faster. I had a question for you on that, but okay.
So I'm like, go what? Even though I thought maybe they weren't ready for it at the time, I was just like, just watch it. So I think that it's really just pulling from examples, right? Even if you are not as confident, I think sometimes kids just, it's those subliminal things, right? Because nobody is telling you that you're not beautiful. Nobody comes out and says you are not beautiful, but you're just reading the cues, right? From how people behave or what you see, you're just reading those little cues. And so I think that putting positive cues in there, even without being so direct sometimes, really would help. And I'm glad that we see people like we have the Black Panther, we have Lupita, we have all the other actresses and people, and like I said, I'm very specific about like showing my daughters like images of, even if it's people in Africa in costume, like whenever I see something I'll show it to them, or sometimes I'm watching like music videos from Nigeria, I'll bring them to come and watch it. So sometimes you don't even need to have that self-esteem. Like sometimes just showing them and showing them the beauty, right? Is really key. Even if you don't necessarily feel that way yourself, like just showing them, because there's so much beauty like in our culture, and sometimes we just skip over. But if you just like put it in their face like all the time, I think
it's not just only for dark skin, it's whatever skin complexion you have, to know that God has given you this for a reason, and he made you perfect, he made you good. And so if you don't appreciate you, no one else will. And so you appreciate yourself, and so your children can appreciate themselves. We came from a culture where, sometimes our uncles and our aunties jokingly would put us down, like, look at your big nose. That will fly in this culture, right? I don't think that will fly in this time, especially with what we're dealing with, raising our children in this environment. All right. So can you tell us a little bit about, Simisayo Brownstone and why you chose that name?
Well, so when I started on my book journey, I decided that, did I want to write under my real name or, another name? And so I decided, maybe another name, because at the time I was still working full time, and I wanted to keep that side of me private because I thought I was going to be in the corporate world for a long time. And so that was my initial plan. Like, I was going to be corporate. I was going to climb the corporate ladder. And so I thought, okay, this little book thing that I'm doing, let me put it to the side and keep it under a different name. So that's kind of where the idea, and then, a lot of authors write under different names. And I picked Simisayo because it's a Nigerian name, but I mean, also it's very special to me because before I had my first daughter, I had I was pregnant and I had a stillbirth, and the baby died at 39 weeks.
At how many weeks?
39 weeks. So it was a really tough time, and I was going to name her Simisayo. So that was the name I was going to give my child. And at 39 weeks, I lost her. So it was kind of a way to remember her. And my company name is Tenny and Tayo, and those are the names of my daughters now. So it was kind of a way to incorporate them all into.
Having a stillbirth is a very painful experience. And, I'm so glad that you could, turn it, and just have her memory and have your writer's name. I had no idea it had such a deep significance, but thank you for sharing that with us. And our hearts out to all those who have had that experience. We know firsthand that it's a difficult experience to have. So I was going to ask you about the stories and about the books. Tell us about it. Let's get into it. Let's get into how these books are, showing or giving us a name. I'm talking about us, like Africans or Black people or immigrants. Tell us a little bit about Faye Faye.
So Faye, here's what she looks like for everybody who's on the thing. That's what she looks like, Faye. And really, I started off with wanting to write a story with an African girl who was the lead character, not the sidekick, not the best friend. Yes. Who was the lead character. And I really wanted her to be in a position of power where she was the one saving the world, right? So a lot of times it's people helping Africa or saving us or, poor Africa, whatever it is. And so I wanted something where this little African girl was the one saving. She was the hero. She was the main attraction. And she was this beautiful girl and everybody looked up to her. So that's really where it all started from. And so, and then I wanted it to be a book where it doesn't matter where you're from, whether you're African, you're European, you're Asian, whatever you are, you'd read the book and just enjoy it. So I wanted it to be a global thing, while at the same time having the African piece be front and center. So that's kind of where it started. So the story is about this girl, Faye, who travels the world helping kids solve problems. And so anytime a child has a problem, they call her up using a magical app that children can see. And she goes to different places around the world helping the kids solve their problems. And, I love the image because it's really empowering. So it's empowering in every sense of the word, empowering as a Black child, being empowered as a child who lives in an area where not everybody looks like you, right? So that's kind of where I really wanted her to be like a hero for everybody, and her be the the heroine. So that's the kind of gist of the book. Yeah.
Is it a book with a storyline from start to finish, or it's a book that has several stories within it?
So each book, so there's 2 books in the series right now, and I'm writing more. So each book takes place in a different country. So the first book takes place in England, and the second book takes place in Costa Rica, and the third book is going to take place in Kenya. So there's a different country for each book. But even though the books take place in different country, I always try to weave in some kind of African folktale or legend into it. Like, so the first book is about a boy who heard a Nigerian legend and he thought it was true. And so he was scared. So he called for help. So it's really, that book is really about overcoming your fears and having courage, but it's really tied around this Nigerian legend. And then the second, Madam Koiko, yeah. So if there's any Nigerians on here, they'll know who Madam Koiko is. So Madam Koiko is something that we all kind of grew up with, but he hears the story of Madam Koi, and he believes the story to be true when he hears the koi, because the story goes that there's this lady with red high-heeled shoes, and when she walks, she makes the sound koi on the floor, and then she comes and takes the kids away. So it kind of loosely based on that. And then the second book, it's about, bullying and things like that. And Faye teaches the kids a lesson using an African folktale, which is very common in our culture. Folktales are used to communicate lessons and things like that. So she ends the story by telling them an African folktale to help teach the lesson in a very, very traditional way. So each story, even though it's like about solving a problem and takes place in different countries, there's that African element kind of woven into it.
Okay. And I wanted to just ask all the moms that are watching us right now, how are you intentional? And please put it in the comments so we can all learn from each other. In what ways are you intentional about your representation to your children? In what ways, like you can just tell us one way that you're using to build their self-image. And, Omobola, maybe you can tell us with this book, with Faye, and the things you buy at home, what is your routine with regards to your children, and maybe a daily routine or a weekly routine to make sure that you're instilling in them your culture. You want them to know that you're born in America, but mom and dad, or mom is from Nigeria. Do you have anything you do that you can share with the audience today?
Well, there's lots of things I would like to do that I have not been doing very well. But definitely, like the folktales piece is something that we do. So because I have a class where I teach African folktales to kids from all over the world. I use that opportunity to bring my kids involved, right? So if we're talking about a new story, I'll show them pictures, like I said. So sometimes my daughter helps me even pick pictures that will go in my classes. So we have that kind of, discussion, and I will tell them, oh, this is this from this country, or we're talking about Tanzania today, or things like that. And, I buy them little things, like I bought them a jigsaw puzzle with the Africa map on it, little things like that. I tell them, my daughter is very much aware that she's Nigerian, but she thinks every African is Nigerian. So I need to tweak that a little bit, because anytime she sees African, she's like, oh, Nigeria. I'm like, no, that's Ghana. So, but I keep instilling that into her. So I think it's really some of this. One of the other things that I'm planning to do very soon, which I think will help a lot, is also enroll them in a language course, so that they can start to learn a language, Yoruba, which is where I'd be from. So that just to kind of teach them and expose them to that side of things. Those are things that they don't have easy access to here. So there's a few places online now that are offering virtual classes. So that's something that I'm hoping to bring in with my kids, and just sometimes having conversations with them as many times as it comes up, or maybe when it's ever relevant. Sometimes my daughters will ask me questions and I'll say, well, in Nigeria, this is how we do this, or, in Nigeria, this is how we do that. So it's not like a specific hard routine. It's more just like, as time goes on, we know, like we call my mother and we say, we're calling Nigeria, grandma is in Nigeria, like that. So and now they're very eager to go and visit.
They have never been.
No, they've never been. So I really want to take them, but they're all eager. They're like, when are we going? When are we going? When are we going? And so at some point, I'm going to take them, but they're very excited about going because I show them, like I say, every opportunity. I show them videos, pictures, all sorts of things. So I feel like they have a good general understanding until the day they go and see it in person.
I mean, it's amazing. And I think it's a learning moment for a lot of us that are listening to you. But I just wanted to share what some people what some moms are saying. Joanna says, I cook my traditional food all the time and they love it. I'm going to need your tips because my kids do not want any of that. And so Funmi says, speak the language to them, read the Bible in Yoruba. She makes their food, make our food. Now, when you don't know the language, that's another problem because I don't know mine.
That's the benefit of the classes.
Yes. Yes.
And the food, so you mentioned the food, that's also a good thing. Like my daughter knows jollof rice and plantains. I tell her, well, it's a plantain, but in Nigeria, we call it dodo. So she's like, dodo. I'm like, no, dodo.
Joanna says, I cook Cameroonian food and they love it. They wake up and ask for that. They ask that for breakfast. That's amazing. That's amazing. Awesome. Yes. My thing is, even though my son is born here, it's okay to be diverse. But at the same time, it's very important for him to understand that there are some things he can't do because he sees other Blacks doing it. Right. And I also make the dance African music. She makes, like, this mom, she is gangster all the way. She makes them dance African music. She makes them eat African food.
The music, that's easy. The music part is easy. Like anytime we're driving, and some of them, my kids are singing this, so they don't even know what it means. They're just singing along. I'm like, okay, you must know. And my husband is like, why are you always playing African music? I'm like, that's how they'll know. Yes, they'll know the sound.
Right. And I think that this generation, our age group, the younger immigrant moms today are doing something that maybe our moms before did not do. And it's that intentionality about identity because, the greatest way you can, the way to rock a person's life is to poke a hole in their identity. And then they're going about not knowing who they are. They really cannot attain. So what we're talking about here is so important for us as immigrant mothers, for us as moms to instill a good sense of self in our children. Because, the media is not doing a good job covering where you are from as an immigrant mom to these kids. So we cannot leave it to the media or their school teachers who may not even know. And that's why we're having this conversation. And somebody else here says, we eat African food. We teach them to respect elders and also to respect people's property. Let us change it a little bit and talk about Black Panther. What were your sentiments about it?
Pardon?
The Black Panther. What were your sentiments about it? I mean, you mentioned you asked your daughter to watch it, but what were your sentiments?
Me, personally, everybody has their own opinions, but I personally loved it, right? Because I thought that, even though it was a fantasized, fantasy version of Africa, I just felt like it was just great to see Africa presented in a way that was, I feel like they did a good job in making it feel like, okay, this is beautiful, right? This is awesome. And a lot of the images you see of Africa, like, sometimes you go online and you're looking at stuff about Africa and it's all about the poverty, the crime, the corruption, and even for me, like when I research stuff for my classes, right? So I was talking to somebody the other day, in each of my classes, before I tell a story, I always started with a lesson.
Mhm.
And so maybe if my story is if let's say my story came from Tanzania, just for example, I'll do research on Tanzania and I'll teach the kids about this is where Tanzania is, this blah, blah. Well, a lot of times when you go online, you always see, there's malaria, there's,
Yeah.
the third poorest, or, like you always see those kinds of things. So I really like anything, because I think we see a lot of those types of like images. And I think that it's really important for us to celebrate the good and the beautiful element. I think it just does a lot for, self-esteem, especially for the kids who are here, who have never lived in Africa. All they're seeing is those, images of, this child, like, she is going to die if they're not hungry, if they don't eat, So I really appreciate things like, Black Panther, just having a different take on how we view Africa and what we're capable of. So I personally enjoyed it, and I liked how it was represented.
So futuristically, would Faye be in the cinemas? Is that in the works? Because I know Disney does not have anything like Faye. So tell us. You look excited when I mentioned that. Is there?
I would love if I can just get somebody to do this animation for me. Like, it's funny because a lot of people who've read the books, regardless of, like without knowing me, have said, it would make for great TV, a great TV show. And, last year I actually got a call from, a Hollywood production company talking about creating a TV show from the books.
Yeah.
But unfortunately that didn't really go anywhere. But just the fact that there was some interest, I think the lady said, with these types of things, it could take years so they may show interest now, and it may not happen for 10, 15 years from now. So that's just how things work in the industry. But if I can get somebody to create this, so if anybody who's watching knows of anybody who can help me push this, that would be great. Because I do believe that, like I said, for somebody to even just call me out of the blue and, from a production company and say, this probably would make a good TV show, just shows to me that, there is a lot of potential there.
Potential, right. I have a few names I have just at the top of my mind. And once we get off the air, I'll share with you on some people that I know are cartoonists, and they can draw those characters and, maybe turn it into a movie or something for the TV. So I'll share that with you once we get off. We've talked about the book. I wanted you to talk more about the class, because the class is for parents who cannot have those story times with your kids, or just an avenue where they can log in and have that, experience. Growing up, we had the Arabian Nights entertainment, and we did everything. So please talk about the class while I sneak out to get my charger before the computer goes up. So please tell us a little bit about the class to parents who are interested and how they can find you.
So the class is it's an African folktale class, and so right now there's different schedules. I do it weekly right now, but in the class I just pick a different African folktale. So it could be from anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa, whether it's South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, all over. Sometimes we don't even know where it's from, but we'll talk about it anyways. And then I tell the kids the story. But like I was saying before, I always like to start with a little bit of a lesson or introduction, so that the kids are getting to know a little bit about African people and culture as they're going. So if we're talking about, the other day I was talking about a folktale from South Africa and the Zulu tribe. So we spent a few minutes talking about the Zulu tribe. And then there was another folktale that involved, a magical mask. No, it wasn't a carving. So we talked about the culture of carving in in Africa and how different, cultures have all these carving and very artistic, or whether it's a costume, we have another one on African dance, and we go to different countries and we look at the different dance styles in different countries. And so it's really, and I tell you, a lot of the parents are sitting in the background listening in, because a lot of parents write me and they're like, oh yeah, I was listening into your class yesterday. So,
Would you have a story to share with us? A short story.
Yes, I will.
Can you?
So, yeah, I can tell you one of my stories, but then I tell the kids the story. And the fun part, or the part that kids like the most, is as I'm telling the story, we act out the scenes together. So like we get to act it out. So if there's a tortoise, I'm like, okay, everybody behave like a tortoise. Or if it's a bird, okay, if it's an old lady, or if we're running, okay, everybody start running. So even though it's a virtual class, it's very interactive, and so I'm really excited about that.
All right, maybe you tell us a story.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you a story about why lightning and thunder live in the sky. Okay. So I'm not sure where this story comes from, but lightning and thunder. Okay. So I'm Nigerian. Okay. So when we start a story, I start by saying story, and you say story. Then I say once upon a time, and you say time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Story.
Story.
Once upon a time. Time. Awesome. Okay. Once upon a time, lightning and thunder did not live in the sky. Lightning and thunder lived on earth. Okay, lightning and thunder lived on earth. Lightning lived in the form of a ram with the horns, and thunder, his mother, lived in the form of a sheep. Now, female sheep are usually called ewes, but I'm just going to call her a sheep for the purpose of this story. So lightning was a ram, and his mother, thunder, was a sheep. And lightning, like many children we know, was very, very troublesome. Okay, he used to like to throw tantrums all the time. He would knock down trees and set things on fire. He would knock down trees and set things on fire. And his mother, thunder, would say, lightning, stop. And lightning would not stop. No, these children, these toddlers, you know how it goes. When you tell them, stop, they're not stopping. So every day, lightning would be throwing tantrums. If his mom said, no, you can't have this, he would throw a tantrum. You know how they are. If his mom said, go here, he would throw a tantrum. He would be knocking down trees and setting things on fire. And one day, his mother yelled at him and said, lightning, stop! And lightning for a little while. It did not take long for lightning to start causing trouble again. So lightning once again started to throw tantrums. His mother would yell at him to stop. So one day, the king in the village said to lightning and thunder, you people are making too much trouble in this town. You're making too much trouble. If you don't get your act together, I'm going to punish you. And so lightning and thunder promised that they were going to behave. But it did not take long for lightning to start causing trouble again. His mother said, don't do something. Again, he was knocking down trees, setting things on fire, And his mother yelled at him again and said, lightning, stop! And so the king, you guys did not hear what I said, so you are going to be punished. So the king banished lightning and thunder to the sky because they were causing trouble. So now, today, anytime you see lightning in the sky, that little lightning in the sky, that is lightning throwing a tantrum. And anytime you hear thunder, the sound of thunder coming behind lightning, that is his mother telling him to stop. And that is the reason why lightning and thunder live in the sky today. And
Oh
that
my goodness. Wow. Oh my goodness. That is so intriguing. You hear the comments. Wow. Thanks for sharing. Enlightening. My 3-year-old is enjoying the story. Oh my goodness.
awesome.
Someone says, I love the concept of the class. I love to enroll my boys. What's the age?
Well, right now the class is for kids age 5 to 9. Although some parents have asked me for older classes now, so I'm working on creating something for older kids. But the class that's currently live and available right now is for that age range, 5 to 9. Well,
But
I have some 4-year-olds there, some 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds in the class. So I advertise it as 5 to 9, but like I say, sometimes parents are like, well, I'm bringing my 3-year-old, whatever, whatever you say. So I have some 3-year-olds, some 4-year-olds, and then I think the oldest kid I've had in my class is maybe like 11. But I'm going to try and break out a class for maybe 10 to 12 or 13 or something like that. But yeah.
Okay, how often do you have the classes? And if someone were trying to register, where should they go?
So you just go onto my website, tennyandtayo.com. And tennyandtayo.com/classes. So I have right now they're weekly. So I don't know if you've heard about the platform called OutSchool. So on OutSchool, I have weekly classes, and then on my own website, I'm working with the Los Angeles City Council, Los Angeles County, and so I have some classes on there. That's every Sunday. That one is a little bit longer because it involves a story and a craft. So, for example, if I told this story now, for example, we'll tell a story and then maybe we'll do a craft. We'll make a sheep, something like that. So it's a story and a craft. The one on OutSchool is just the story. So it's shorter. So the one on OutSchool is 30 minutes. And then the one I have on my website is an hour long because we do the first half is a story. The second half is a craft. But it's all on the website. All the links are on the website. If you go to tennyandtayo.com/classes, then you will see the link to OutSchool. You'll see the link to my classes. You'll see all the information there on tennyandtayo.com/classes.
And some other resources that you have, like dolls, and what other resources do you have on the website?
So I didn't catch that question.
What other resources do you have? Like, do you have dolls, backpacks?
I have a whole lot. I have the books. I have other things. Like, let me see, what do I have here? One of my latest, this jewelry making kit. I can see it. It's a jewelry making kit for kids, so they can make their own jewelry. It has an African inspired there. You can get cowrie beads in there. I have this STEM product. So with this STEM toy, kids get to build a solar powered car. And it actually drives when it's complete. So
nice.
It's a little educational toy, but everything ties back to something. Because even though it's a car, there's a little message from the superhero that says, "Oh, hi, my name is blah blah blah. I'm from so and so country," and things like that. And then there's even a girl version where they can build a car and things like that. I have some backpacks. I have T-shirts. The whole idea really is to create like I think I was telling you before, I didn't find a lot of toys that had a lot of representation. And so I wanted to create a line of toys, a line of items that represented our kids. So that's the goal, to create books and toys and apparel and all sorts of things. And I also have a workshop where kids get to build the cars together. So we get together, build a car, and then we'll race it. And then I have the classes where we're doing the African Folktales and things like that. So kind of like a mix of everything for kids, so that, we have a place where you see something. It's kind of modern, it's a modern take, but it still kind of reminds you of your roots in a way.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And it's almost time for us to part ways, but I just wanted you to, leave one word of wisdom with a mom who is saying, I hear you, Omobola. You sound like you have everything together. I'm just getting started. I saw that. You sound like you have this whole thing figured out in terms of instilling identity in your children. I'm just getting started. Can you share with her a word of wisdom?
First of all, I don't have everything together. That's the first thing I'll say. I don't have everything together. My advice and the advice I would give myself if I were asking the same question, because I often feel like I'm not doing enough, is to just take things step by step, right? Because I feel like as moms, we're always going to figure out the things that we're not doing well. We're not doing as we look at the other mom and like, oh, that person is doing this and this and this. What am I doing with, and I'm guilty of that. Like all the time, I'm like, what am I doing? This person can speak their language. Why can't my daughter, So I think it's really just taking step by step and doing what you can with what you can, right? And it could be simple things like, like the people said, cooking food or things like that. Those type of things go a long way, right? Because they have that connection, like, cooking food, watching videos, buying books. Like, even if you're not in it, like in the culture every single day, because it's hard when you're, you live here. But those like little reminders, I think, help. And just know that you're probably always going to feel like you're not doing enough. You're always going to feel like you're not doing enough, and there's always going to be more that you could be doing.
Right.
So my advice would be just start somewhere. It's better to start, take your baby steps, and then add on to it. Once you've mastered one baby step, then you add another little baby step, and then you add another little baby step, and then soon it'll become more.
Yeah, a huge blob of activity.
Exactly. A
So
giant foot.
Well, I'm just going to read some of the comments. Wow, thanks for sharing. This is enlightening. Someone says, great job, Moby. I think that's a nickname.
Oh, I know who that is. Somebody call me Moby. I must know who that person is. Yay. Hi.
Hey, and someone says, lovely. We have awesome. Nice one. Love it. That took me back to my childhood. We have had a great time with you, Moby. And we hope you can come back and
Somebody
tell
I probably knew in university.
us.
I said somebody from my university days.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Hope you can, because somebody else here says that, have you looked into making this an app so we can use in other countries worldwide? So, there's a lot of opportunity there, for you, and, because you're doing great work, and we'd like to have you back however often you would want to come back on this platform and tell us more stories. We're open and available. So thank you so much. I'm wondering if you had anything else to share.
No, I think we've touched on everything. So hopefully I'll see some of you in class.
Yes.
An app. I would love to make an app. I'm writing my next book, so hopefully you guys will check that out for kids. And just join. One thing I'm trying to do better is on my website. If you go, I have like you can sign up for my email list, a club, and what I'm trying to do is like share. As I learn things, because I'm also learning a lot. In Africa, sometimes you only learn about your little piece. You don't learn about the continent. And like, as I've been telling the stories and I've been doing research, I've been learning so much about our continent. And it's like amazing. I'm like, the next time I travel and spend my dollars, I'm going here. I'm going to Zimbabwe. But, I try to share little tidbits, or whether it's activity sheets or for the kids, or oh, here's what I learned about so and so tribe. So you can sign up for the mailing list as well on my website, and as soon as I have more information to share, then I will share that also.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, guys, thank you for being with us throughout this session. And I hope you have learned a thing or two that as immigrant mom, we have to be intentional about instilling a good sense of image, good sense of good identity to our children, to let them know that it does not matter what the shade of their skin is, their complexion, they are beautiful. And beauty is not always in what we see. Beauty is also in the values that we carry. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be live again in 2 weeks. Don't forget to join us on the Immigrant Mom group on Facebook. We post opportunities, we answer questions, we just have a merry community there, and we will talk about what is coming up here for the Immigrant Mom. All right, guys, I hope you have a great Thursday. You have a great weekend, and God bless you.
If you help me see my sister, tell her
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody says this is beautiful, very engaging. I had fun. Thanks, Omobola. Thanks, Cheryl. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Uche. We appreciate you.